What is the Bitcoin halving and why does it matter so much? To understand the halving, we first have to understand the basics of how Bitcoins are mined. I'm going to explain how Bitcoins are mined using an analogy with the game Battleship. You know the game where you guess coordinates and try to sink the enemy ships without knowing where they are? Before we dive in, please note that this is a very simplified explanation and actual Bitcoin mining is a lot more complex. It's kind of like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. So, let's get into it. Every 10 minutes in the world of Bitcoin is like a turn in Battleship. Imagine all recent Bitcoin transactions, 6 new Bitcoin, and transaction fees are all bundled together and put in a treasure chest. This chest is then put on an enemy battleship in the game. Now, think of each Bitcoin miner as a commander of their own battleship. But here's the twist. They have no idea where the enemy treasure ship is on the map. Using their computational power, these miners blindly launch digital torpedoes onto the game's map, trying to hit the exact location of the treasure ship. As these miners persistently launch their torpedoes, one of them eventually succeeds in hitting the right spot, sinking the enemy ship and capturing the treasure chest. But here's where it gets interesting. To open the chest, which contains the transactions, the 6 new Bitcoin, and the transaction fees, the miner must add this chest to the existing chain of chests, creating a sequence. Connecting these chests is what unlocks the treasure. Once added, the treasure chest opens and the transactions become part of that block. They can never be changed after this. The 6 new Bitcoin and the transaction fees are given to the miner who successfully sunk the ship and added the chest to the existing chain. Please note that the only way to get new Bitcoin is by rewarding the miner who successfully sinks the ship and unlocks the treasure chest. There is no other way for new Bitcoin to come into existence. Miners compete to add new blocks to the chain and unlock the 6 Bitcoin. Pretty cool, right? Alright guys, now that we've sailed through the basics of Bitcoin, let's focus on the phrase of the day, Bitcoin halving. The Bitcoin halving is just that. The reward that a miner gets for adding a new block to the chain gets cut in half. So, back to our battleship analogy. The number of new Bitcoins in each treasure chest gets cut in half, so from 6 to 3. Back in the day, miners started with 50 Bitcoins per block. Then, in 2012, the first halving happened, and that got reduced to 25. In 2016, the halving happened again, and it dropped to 12.5. The last Bitcoin halving happened in 2020, bringing the Bitcoin reward down to 6.25 Bitcoins per block. And guess what? The cycle is expected to repeat itself every 4 years until we get to the cap of 21 million Bitcoin. This is expected to happen in the year 2140. Now, the next halving is going to take place in April 2024, where we go from 6.25 Bitcoin per block to 3.125. The big question is, why is this so important? You know how people say that Bitcoin is a scarce resource, that's what makes it valuable, and that there can only ever be 21 million in existence? Bitcoin halving is a key event in the system. It's what ensures that there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin in existence. No more, not even one. To explain the significance of this cap, I want to compare it to the traditional fiat system we currently deal with today. Have you ever heard of the debt crisis? I'm going to use the US and the US Central Bank to explain my point. What this means is that the US prints money to boost the economy and bail out financial institutions. The consequence? They flood the system with more money, increasing supply. Now, in basic economics, if you increase supply without a corresponding increase in demand, the value of that asset goes down. In simple terms, pumping more money into the system makes the currency less valuable. This excessive money printing is what leads to hyperinflation, as seen in countries like Zimbabwe, where their currency became so worthless that they couldn't even buy a loaf of bread for 100 trillion Zimbabwean dollars. Take a look at this chart showing the US national debt level. You can think of it as an indicator of how much money the central bank has been printing. Not the most reassuring sight, right? The thing is, no one really knows how many dollars there are out there, and the US keeps printing more at an unprecedented rate. This begs the question, can we genuinely believe that fiat currencies actually have value? Do we think everything is going to be okay? Now, I'm going to let everyone make their own decisions, but I think it's pretty clear that central banks and governments have been irresponsible and careless. The consequences of all this money printing is going to catch up with us, sooner or later. This is where Bitcoin comes in. Unlike traditional fiat currencies, which can be printed endlessly, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin in existence, and this is ensured due to the halving cycle. The halving cycle lowers the amount of new Bitcoin that enter the system. This allows Bitcoin to stand out and act as an alternative to the traditional finance system that we're working with. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. Let us know in the comments below. By the way, my brother and I have made a video where we speak about the history of money. If this interests you, the link is in the description below. Cheers, guys.